Alrighty. Hey, everyone. This is Dr. Noel Liu. I'm back with another episode of my podcast. And today we have a very special guest. We got Jay Hogan from PerfectFit Ortho. And he is going to be introducing himself and telling a little bit about what he does and how does it work. So Jay, let's get started. The floor is yours.
Awesome. I appreciate you having me. I'm the co-founder and vice president of a company called PerfectFit Ortho. We are virtual orthodontists. So our whole goal is to help general dentists with their case selection, with starting treatments, getting patients to say yes. And we also monitor those treatments for those patients remotely from home. So we want to allow general dentists to start more cases, but without having to invest the time necessary seeing those patients every 6 to 8 weeks. So you start more cases, see your patients less often, but they get to see an orthodontist every single week from home.
Absolutely. I can attest to that because with us and Secure Dental, we actually have Jay on our side. And one of the biggest thing that I think the value proposition here is for my associates, they don't really have to think about how to treat these patients. Because Jay, tell me, correct me if I'm wrong here, your orthodontist, once the case comes to you, your orthodontist is looking at it and guiding our doctors through the entire step of the way, correct?
Yep. So every time someone in one of your locations has a patient in the chair and they realize that patient has malocclusion, what normally happens is they'll take some photos of the patient, and within 15 minutes, we tell your associates how long that treatment will take and what's going to be necessary, whether it's elastics, IPR, attachments. And then our orthodontists go through and set up and design that case with the aligner manufacturer of choice. And then we also provide video consults with your doctor. So if they ever have questions or concerns or maybe want to review or revise that treatment plan, they can do video calls with our orthodontist to walk through the case.
Awesome. One thing that always amazed me, and I know we've been working together for a while. How did you get started?
So we started in 2019, actually. My partner and I, we were offering these services to the general dentists in our area that were referring to our brick and mortar orthodontic practices. And we did this as a way to tell them, hey, if you want to expand your case horizon and your case selection, we know you're doing aligners. So if you want help and you want some support and guidance, we'll provide that to you. And in return, just send us the cases you don't want to do. We started that process and we realized quite quickly that most of the general dentists we were working with in our local area started keeping everything. And at that point, we realized, we may need to pivot a little bit and change not necessarily our business model, but change the direction in which our focus. So we started launching nationally in January of 23, and we are now in 17 states and Canada.
And Canada. Oh, wow. Okay. So you guys were brick and mortar before?
Yep. There were 3 brick and mortar practices, and we basically went out within a 20-mile radius of all of our offices and said, hey, you keep the easy class 1 cases or the 8-10 month cases. We will help support you. We will design and set the case up. We'll monitor your patients every week. You keep those. Send us the stuff you don't want to do. And they just started doing more and more and more and more. I think as the doctors got comfortable and as they got more confident knowing they have that orthodontic support, they started taking on more and more cases, to the point where we had some doctors that almost, with few exceptions, stopped referring to us in general. They were using us as PerfectFit, but they weren't referring them to our brick and mortar practices any longer.
So who are your main clients in terms of who would be an ideal client? Is it like a group practice? Would it be solo dentist? Or would it be like somebody who's never done orthodontist? Like
it's very interesting that there's a different bucket for each type of doctor. We have a doctor in California who is a private practice dentist who is a very large provider for a certain aligner manufacturer. And they reached out to us and said, we don't necessarily need as much of the case setup or the guidance, but we have reached the ceiling. We cannot see any more aligner cases. We do 120 a year. We're going to stop doing the cases because we don't have the chair space. So for them, the value proposition was they don't have to see their patients unless something is going awry. We're monitoring them weekly at home. Then there's other doctors who want to get more comfortable doing aligners, and they find the value in us because we're able to help them with case selection and case setup. And then for group practices, they love it in the sense that they have continuity of care, number one. As associates open their own practices or they leave the organization or new ones come in, I know, and you can probably speak to it, it's sometimes challenging to ask a doctor to take over a case someone else was working on. We maintain that continuity of care by continuing to monitor them with the same orthodontist the entire time. And we help group practices, which it seems right now in 2023, a lot of practices are looking for same store growth. And that's where a lot of DSOs and group practices will find that with us.
So are you like kind of shifting your focus more from private to like group and DSOs? Because I've seen you like recently featured on DEO as well,
Yeah.
And congratulations. And
Thank you.
See that. I kind of see like what are you trying to shift your focus? So is that something which, or are you just adding on to it?
I think for us right now, we're just adding on. We want to work with, my Dr. Abramowitz, my partner, his goal, number one, was he was frustrated with a lot of the direct to consumer products that were going directly to patients.
Correct.
And it was causing a lot of issues. And he wanted to just help general dentists because, again, he said, I know they're doing it. I want to help them do it better. And I think that's kind of where it started. And if we can help provide support to group practices, it works very well. Not to mention the sales process. So we provide the doctors in those offices with software that will allow patients to do virtual consults from home. So on occasion, and your practices have had a couple of these where patients will take photos from home. We will send them a treatment plan on your behalf, and then the patients sign and they pay, and they've never stepped foot in the practice. If patients decide against treatment or they don't decide to move forward the day the treatment plan is presented, we will then follow up with them for the next 90 days via email, text, phone call. And every time we do is another chance for that patient to start their treatment plan.
Wow. So yes, I mean, that's one thing I can attest to, that, your team is following up. So what is the size of your company right now? How many doctors and how many sales force that you have right now?
Sure. We have 4 orthodontists, that we have 1 lab technician that work, 4 orthodontists, 1 lab technician, myself, and an admin person. And we have a salesperson as well that travels to events and, cold calls practices. Awesome. We are finding that it's much more beneficial for us, I think, to go to events and go to shows more so than it is kind of, cold calling, knocking on doors. There's a lot of gatekeeping that happens. I will tell you, though, when we get into a position with a practice or a group and we're able to actually present what we do, we have 92% of our doctors sign up with us.
Wow. I can see the value proposition in this, because a lot of times, like the direct to consumer, the problem with that is there's a lot of lawsuits going on with that stuff. And then there's a lot of issues going on with that stuff. And I think like even going to a general practice facility and trying to get like clear brackets or clear braces or clear aligners, right? Everybody kind of mixes everything in one. But what you guys are doing is it's like one step even ahead of that, because for us, the value proposition has been that, hey, you know what, Ms. Jones, we're not only going to be treating you in this office, but we also have an orthodontist that's going to be monitoring your case. And I think that becomes a huge proposition. So is that one of the main selling feature why 92% of the doctors signed up? It's because they have that peace of mind?
I think that most doctors see it as a way that to capture more market share within their own practice. We don't, when we onboard new doctors or new groups, we don't necessarily have a dialogue about changing their marketing or becoming more aggressive in the aligner space. We have a conversation with them normally to say, those patients already exist. They're your patients. You're referring them somewhere. We're going to give you an opportunity to keep them in your own practice. And as long as the patients are compliant and as long as the teeth are tracking, it becomes, and profit's not a bad word. It becomes one of the most profitable things you can do in your practice, because you may only see that patient at bond, IPR in the middle if they need it, and then debond, as long as everything is tracking and things are working the way they should. And to kind of touch on your point about direct to consumer, my partner did it. He used Smile Direct Club. He did not tell them that he was an orthodontist, just followed their instructions, went through the entire process, and he did not have good results at all. He went as far as trying to get a refund, and they asked him, and it's public knowledge now, so I'm not throwing dirt on anyone's grave, but he asked for a refund, and they asked him to sign an NDA in exchange for getting his money back, which he didn't do because he wanted to use it as a case study to show what happens when you go direct to consumer. We just want to allow doctors to give their patients the best treatment that they can. And it's amazing how much better treatment is when you do have an orthodontist that's reviewing that case on a week-to-week basis. There are many orthodontists probably in your area, in the Chicago area, that can't say that. But now Secure Dental, for instance, can say you're going to be seen by an orthodontist every single week, but at your convenience. You don't have to take time out of school or take out of work. You can do it all from home.
That's great. And I think that's one of the biggest selling proposition there, that, for us, we had the peace of mind, right? That there is someone behind us. And then also the fact that it makes it easier for the patient, saves chairside time. So this whole virtual thing, did it come about like after COVID?
We were lucky. We started prior to COVID.
Something in a plan already, like you had in mind?
We were already utilizing virtual appointments and weekly monitoring with patients prior to COVID. We started in 2019. And so when COVID hit, it was almost, I'll say it was foresight, but we got lucky. So once COVID started, we really, really, really leaned in, because we were one of few practices probably within a 50, 60 mile radius that were actively seeing patients still weekly. We had the ability to really maximize our potential as far as giving patients what they need when they need it, but not having to compromise and have a lot of people in the practice and run that risk, especially very early on. The governor here in Florida had shut down everyone in the state for, I want to say 45, 50 days down here. So we were still able to see those patients and view them. And it was real lucky for us, but it allowed us to kind of really hone in on what we were doing and how we were doing it. And now it's very, very, very seamless.
Would it be fair to say that the whole tele-dentistry started with what you were doing?
I don't know that I would take the credit for that, but I do think that in the next 5 to 10 years, I think orthodontics especially is going to look very different. I think that you're going to have your orthodontic groups, orthodontic practices, and you're going to have general dentists who use us. I really don't see, I just think that the future is here in that regard. And I think that it just makes so much more sense to be able to have that collaboration work in tandem. And I think you'll still have your mom and pop practices that may just do 1 or 2 cases for friends or family. But I think that doctors who really want to provide the service to their patients, instead of having to refer them somewhere else, we're going to be the perfect fit.
Oh, that's great, because once one of the endodontists that we had a course with last couple of weeks ago, and same thing with endo as well. There's a trend with all the new endodontists coming out. They're not looking into opening up a practice, and I see the same trend is happening with orthodontists. Like all these guys coming out, they're actually being employed by DSOs, or they just want to do moonlighting here and there, or join team like yours. So what's the workflow like for someone, let's say, starting off, right, from onboarding and the process, just a very 30,000 foot view?
Yeah. So, the onboarding process for a new practice is really quite quick. We send out a request for some information, and then we build out the sales website and all of that, the intricacies there. Then we meet with the team, whether it's virtually or in person, and training takes an hour. And once that's done, doctors are off and running. And the workflow is very simple. When a patient is in your practice and you think they could benefit from ortho, you take some pictures. And within 15 minutes, we'll tell you that patient's going to need treatment for X amount of time, approximately. We think that they'll need this and that, and here's what will be necessary. We want to give the doctors an idea as to what's going to be necessary, because we want you to be able to present a treatment plan, financial treatment plan, to your patient on the spot. So we don't want to tell doctors, hey, it's going to be 18 months. And then the patient says yes, they pay, they move forward. And then the doctor's finding out, I have to do IPR. I'm going to need attachments. They're going to need to wear elastics. I didn't know that. So we want to at least give you the information you'll need, so the doctor can make a decision on whether they want to present the case. And then so the patient is informed on what's going to be necessary. So we present that treatment plan to the patient, or someone in the practice does. If the patient moves forward, the doctor will take the scan, submit all of that to us, and we start working on the case. On average, we probably go back and forth.
So at the time of consult, there's no scan. It's only photographs, right?
Correct. Now, we have some practices that want to take that scan. They want to show the patient the simulation, but we oftentimes tell our doctors it is a simulation. It's not exact. And most of our patients, we have found, are more concerned about how long is it going to take? What can you fix the issue that I have, and can I afford it? And if you can answer those three questions, there's no need to take that scan or go through that simulation, because I don't want to say it's a waste of time, but it's a misallocation of time. You're asking a staff member to take the scan, to wait for it to load, to move the things around when a patient doesn't need that information. So the patient says yes, they sign, they pay, they decide to move forward. We start working with the lab and we set up and design that case. And I'll tell you, on average, you can actually go back and look at any of the patients that you've started, and you'll see how many times that we do not approve a case prior to even presenting it to you. On average, we probably go back and forth 4 times with each lab to get the case set the way we want prior to showing it to your doctors for approval.
That's great. That was one of our main points, that we wanted to make it as easy as possible for our team and doctors, because one of the biggest gripe with everybody was like, hey, I've never been trained in ortho. I don't know anything about orthodontics, and I'm not sure how does the whole thing workflow wise, how does it work? So with your workflow, what I loved best about was everything was like very, very manageable, and we can delegate. We can delegate to our team, and they're like, it's just photos and just snapping it in and just getting the shots done and uploading it.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the biggest advantage for us. And I'm sure it's it's for a lot of people as well, like as easy as possible.
We want to make it easy.
I had problems. I personally had problems, but then I reached out to you and you walked me through the whole step.
Yeah. It's not there. There's definitely times, I know that eventually, as we continue to grow, I'll have to stop giving out my cell phone number, but we want to be available. We want to, guide people and be your virtual orthodontist. That's really the whole, if you really boil it down, that's just what we are. You can hire an orthodontist and pay them a daily guarantee and have them in your practice 2 days a week or 2 days a month, what have you. Or you can hire a virtual orthodontist and they're there when you need them and you only pay them when you use them. That's the other big benefit of what we do. We can go through that entire process. Now, we had one 3 days ago, an associate in one of your practices that did a video consult with our orthodontist. They walked through the case, answered questions, looked at the setup, and then the doctor decided, I'm just not comfortable. I don't want to do this case. And they didn't pay us a dime, right? So we did the case setup. We did the presentation, the virtual chairside consult. We went through the whole step and process. And then the doctor decided, I'd rather refer this out. That's fine. We don't charge our clients until they accept the case. And that's part of our goal and our mission statement of setting up doctors to be, setting doctors up for success with the patients that they have. And if they're not comfortable doing the case, we don't want you doing the case. We always tell our clients, anything that can be done with brackets and wires, we can do with aligners, but it's up to the doctor to decide what case they want to do.
No, that's great, because I love the fact that you're putting the value out first, right, before getting paid. And I think that's huge for anybody hearing this, because not a lot of places are like that, right? So, we know how we get treated with other industries, like when we go trying to do anything. So, no, that's great. So tell me one last thing here. What is the future of PerfectFit?
That's a great question. I'm not real sure. I think that changes daily. We've had a couple clients as of late reach out to us that are in Europe, which I was not expecting to be crossing the pond anytime soon, but that may become a situation for us. We just want to continue to grow, honestly, and we have the systems in place that we can continue to provide that same level of service. My personal goal, and I don't want to speak for my partner, is I hope that one day people refer to virtual orthodontists the same way that people refer to storage bags. I don't ask for a clear bag. I ask for a Ziploc. I ask for a Kleenex. I hope that one day that, we can be the Kleenex of virtual orthodontics. Hey,
and the only way you can do it is if you go global.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that you got one in Europe. I mean, that is huge. So, the same thing for me too. Like, we have our DentVia team, which is virtual. And our team was founded on the basis of, necessity and pain that we were growing through. And these guys are all the way down the other side of the world in Philippines. So when I look at your service, I can almost see like a parallel line, like you providing that service anywhere on this planet.
Mm-hmm. And it's crazy. I've been thinking about that company, your company, and we should probably maybe outside of the podcast have a chat, because I was thinking, man, I bet there's some synergy. I bet there's a way that we can leverage each other to provide that kind of virtual support and virtual services to doctors, our existing clients and on the back end, so that patients, doctors don't have to accept that hurdle of human capital. That's one of the biggest costs of any practice. And if you can outsource that and have that level of support and that level of consistency, which is important, I think it could be awesome.
Right, because virtual, again, nowadays everything is virtual, right? Everything is electronic, everything is cloud-based.
Yep.
Anything can be accessed anywhere, anytime. So
yeah, we don't even have a home office. All of my staff work from home. We have a physical address where things get mailed, but outside of that, it's like you said, it's all virtual.
That's the future, Jay.
It is, until you're doing a podcast and you have dogs, so you have to bribe them with treats and throw them in their crates to keep them quiet. But otherwise, yeah, I enjoy it.
No, because I can see that happening, because what you're doing is like virtual. So, I mean, whether you have an office, you don't have an office. And that's why right now, I do like real estate too on the side. So I can see like all these real estate spaces being empty, and, nobody wants to go back to a brick, building. Everybody wants to be home. Everybody wants to do it virtually. Everybody wants to do it remotely. So I can see that happening very, very, it's a reality. I mean, we're already seeing it, and it's just going to get even, I would call it better or worse, however you want to see it. But it's like everybody would want to be home or elsewhere doing the job and not be in a physical building.
Let me ask you this. I haven't had a chance to even ask yet, which I feel a little embarrassed. How's the feedback been from your patients as they've gone through the system and gone through the monitoring and those types of things?
They are blown away that they have an orthodontist and they can actually scan and keep the progress going. And I think that's the feedback I've been getting, which is huge. So we took the same feedback and we're putting it in our pamphlets that we have a virtual orthodontist that's going to help you out.
Awesome. No, I think that's great. And it's funny. We get messages from patients all the time that are not ortho related. We'll get messages because the patients can message us directly through that app. So they can message us in real time. We provide them with annotated photos and scans of their teeth to give them advice. But sometimes patients will message us, ask when their next cleaning is, or if their insurance company made a payment. Oh, all the time. So in those instances,
Did someone ever text you or email you guys for emergencies? Like, they're pain.
Yeah. And what else is interesting is that we put a virtual widget on the website, and you've had patients that have used that widget for implants or perioscaling and all types of other things that are not aligner related. So it's very interesting. It's an unintended consequence, but it's actually helps garner and capture new patients and additional leads that are not aligner related.
Correct. And it's people. They're going to go anywhere and everywhere just to find an answer. So yeah, it's a great side effect. I love it. So with that being said, Jay, how do people find you?
Sure. You can we're online, right? PerfectFitOrtho.com. You can go to we're on Facebook and LinkedIn and all that good stuff. But the easiest way, I think, is just the website. There's a couple tutorials, shows you how the system and process works. You can always sign up for and go through a demo with us, but it's really pretty quick and concise. But we want to be there to help. So if anyone is listening and they decide they want to find out more, they can just go to our website and click contact sales, and someone will reach out to them.
No, I love it. I'm definitely going to put a link down like after we record, and so for people to find and also follow up. And if there's any questions, they can always reach out to your email and go from there. Correct?
Yes, sir. That's right. That's right. And I'm going to get a videographer out to your office one of these days so I can film a testimonial from you.
Let's do it. All about collaboration.
There you go.
All righty, Jay. Thanks a lot for your time. I mean, it was awesome. It was very, very valuable. Since, full disclosure, we are a client of PerfectFit. We have great experience just because from the workflow standpoint of view and also the orthodontist, they are very, very helpful. And with that being said, you guys know where to find Jay. So for now, we are going to be landing the plane and calling it a day. And everyone, thanks for attending. Make sure you like and subscribe. Secure Dental Podcast. Dr. Liu out.
Thanks, Doc.